Upon their return to the capital, a very nostalgic place where Avin and Mile first became adventurers, and when Rutice, still a cult member at the time, first caught on to their activities and began hunting them. Avin's home and Nephthys' sanctum is just a brisk walk away. The reality of the situation gradually dawned on him. He would soon have to pass through Ourt village. What on earth is he going to say to Miles' parents? Before long, he found himself at the southern exit out of Phildin City. Ourt village is a few minutes away on foot. Concerned, Rutice reaches out to Avin, asking if he's alright. Avin is surprisingly calm, having come to terms with the reality of the upcoming reunion with the people of Ourt village. However, before Avin and Rutice can get a move on, they are suddenly met by something that neither of them could have ever foreseen in their lives. Miles' father was approaching Phildin. Avin calls out to Miles' father in response, but receives absolutely no reaction. It was as if he was simply walking forward in a trance. Avin and Rutice give chase, but no matter what they say or do, Miles' father doesn't even flinch as he continues his course, all the way to Phildin Castle. The guards walk up to stop the man trying to get in, but suddenly Miles' father appears to chant a strange magical spell, blasting away the guards like it was nothing. Avin and Rutice try to chase him down, and catches him in the courtyard. Miles' father turns around to face them, his eyes blood red, face emotionless as if he was a walking puppet. Suddenly he casts another spell, and to Avin's horror summons a horde of monsters to charge at them. As Avin and Rutice are tied up dealing with the monsters, Miles' father continues his path to the throne room, but is soon met by two new opponents. Muse and Marty emerge from within the castle, determined to stop the sudden intruder. Muse, being a much more skilled fighter than the stock standard guard, manages to easily catch Miles' father off guard and scores a clean hit on him with her whip, knocking the man unconscious. Avin and Rutice enter the scene soon after, quickly running to the collapsed man with great concern. Realizing the man she just knocked out was Miles' father, Muse's smugness from her victory quickly plummets into full-blown panic. The group manages to get a grasp on the situation and decide to convene to talk about everything. Muse takes Marty and reports the incident to the king, and meets Avin and Rutice in her room. The old friends spend some time catching up with each other. Sage Gawain had come by the castle shortly before this, more or less having already explained Avin's circumstance to the two already. The current situation, however, felt inexplicable to them. Firstly, Miles' father had committed attempted regicide, an act which certainly carries severe punishments. Fortunately, Muse was able to block the sentencing and pardon him on account of his relationship to Avin and Mile. In addition, the fact that he was seen in a trance-like state and his inexplicable powers to summon monsters made it abundantly clear that he is under some sort of spell. Secondly, Avin is surprised to see Marty being so active inside Phildin Castle. Marty tells him that since the Tibri village incident, he has since passed the minister's exam and was given an official position in the government. However, instead of a cushy government job, his assignment is to be Muse's personal aide, which is simply a fancy term for her secretary / bodyguard / scribe / sentry / errand boy / delivery personnel / Marty's list of duties to Muse quickly devolves into the equivalent of an unpaid overworked intern, eventually coalescing into a helpless sigh, much to Muse's chagrin and Avin's sympathy. Regardless, this incident has drawn the attention of the crown, and Muse is now authorized to not only accompany Avin to look into the matter of the attempted regicide, but also in his subsequent journey into Nephthys' shrine. Of course, Marty will have to accompany her the entire time as well. The team decide to first visit Miles' father, currently still unconscious and being treated at the Phildin Adventurers Guild. Before they set off, Muse takes Avin and Rutice to a brief audience with the king. Avin finally comes face to face with King Milligan XVI, the 27th monarch of Phildin. Having already heard Avin's deeds from Muse and General Diren, Milligan asks Avin to approach, praising his deeds as an exemplary citizen and adventurer. Milligan regales Avin with the tales of the Adventurers Guild, originally founded by him as an alternative avenue to serve the people through a medium outside of the military. While the Royal Army serves the interests of public security, there are many problems from the common man that also need to be resolved. And to that end, he had established the Adventurers Guild to call forth the citizenry to empower each other. In this way, when the army and the adventurers work in tandem, the continent can be led into a brighter future together. Finally, he reassures Avin that he will see to it that Miles' father go unpunished for today's events, and promises that this incident will not be publicly broadcast. Thanking the benevolent king for his kindness, Avin and crew take their leave from the palace and head for the Adventurers Guild. Miles' father is still unconscious in the guild. Rutice examines his condition and concludes that he is under the influence of a potent mind control spell, an ancient magic recorded only in sacred texts, lost to magicians of the present day. Unfortunately, there are very few ways to break the mind control, and if done by force, runs the risk of shattering the victim's mind, leaving them possibly mindless for the rest of their life. Hearing this, the group is at a loss on what to do to save Miles' father. Marty then comes up with the idea of seeking out Sage Dinerkin deep in the Prayer Woods. If anyone on the continent can help, it must be the Sage of Wisdom. The rest of the team unanimously agree and quickly set off through the eastern exit of Phildin to seek out the Great Sage. Tibri village lies between Phildin and Sage Dinerkin's abode, where Avin makes a quick courtesy stop by Shannon's house to let her parents know that she is currently in Valkid. Shannon's parents, just as rambunctious as their daughter, is relieved to hear that Shannon is okay, but surprisingly doesn't even want her to come back home, but instead continue to encourage her to chase after her dreams, alone. Once again, this whole family's behavior manages to make Avin speechless, and so he quickly leaves Tibri village and enters the Prayer Woods. Fortunately, Sage Dinerkin is home and welcomes them in, exchanging some brief pleasantries with Avin's crew, as well as clearing the air with Rutice since their last meeting wasn't necessarily friendly. Gawain had come by here 2 days ago during his quest to create the prophesized blade. The team quickly explained the condition of Miles' father to him, and asks for a possible way to break the spell. Thinking over the situation, Dinerkin proposes 2 possible solutions. The first would be to seek out the person responsible for the mind control spell and stop the problem at the root. This would of course be impractical at the moment since they do not know who the culprit behind the scenes is. The second would be to create an elixir that is capable of insulating its user from magical influence, which would be capable of severing the mind control spell. He tells the crew that while he can brew this elixir right now, he is missing a critical component, glow shrooms, which grow in the nearby Tzatziki cave, and asks them to retrieve a sample for him. Avin's team obliges immediately and heads off to the cave in great haste. Tzatziki Cave, however, is a place of great nostalgia for Avin's team. This was the place where they first met Shannon, the first real mission they ever undertook, and the first time they came face to face with Fatima. When they reached the end of the cave, they found that the temporary hideout once erected by the Shamshir gang was still here. Though the Tibri operation was only a few months ago, it truly felt like an eternity had passed in the interim. They find some glowshroom samples, having now grown in abundance without human presence, and procure a sample with minimal resistance. Taking the reagent back to Sage Dinerkin, he very quickly prepares a silvery solution for Avin's team, the Jenis Elixir, capable of curing Miles' father of the spell that he is under. Avin's team thanks Dinerkin for his help, but is surprised to learn that he is planning on leaving his home. Dinerkin tells Avin and crew that tomorrow he will be heading to Phildin City to meet with Gawain. The team remarks that it must be a big occasion to have someone like the Sage of Wisdom leave his hermitage. They are then told by the Great Sage that if all goes well, they will soon see what Gawain and Dinerkin had been working on. Taking the Jenis Elixir back to Phildin, the crew is stopped by a distraught Jenis, once again set onto a desperate journey around the world to find Karamas. Leaving him to his own devices for now, the team heads back to the Adventurers Guild and Rutice prepares the elixir and applies the proper dosage, half of the bottle, to Miles' father. The elixir quickly works its magic, and Miles' father wakes up, but is very surprised to find himself inexplicably in Phildin, and doesn't remember anything as to how he ended up here. When Avin asks him to remember, Miles' father tries to recall, and comes up with a statement that defies Avin's beliefs completely. Miles' father tells him that Mile had come back to Ourt village. Avin and crew are stunned, and Miles' father struggles to remember the details. He recalls the villagers crowding around Mile, thinking it's strange that he came back alone. But he soon realized that something was off about his son, in particular something strange with his hair. But that's when his memories stopped, and the next thing he knew he woke up here. It seems that the mind control spell was cast on him at that exact moment. Having just been rescued by the effects of the elixir, Miles' father is still very exhausted. Avin quickly reassures him that they will take care of things from here, and sets the man back to sleep. The crew head out of the guild to discuss this shocking revelation. Is Mile really still alive? And if so, what is the whole mind control spell on Miles' father all about? Unable to come to a logical answer, their next steps are clear. It is time to head to Ourt village to confirm the situation for themselves. On the way there, however, more ominous signs began to stack up. The crew finds an adventurer dispatched to Ourt village for deliveries running back toward Phildin, screaming and terrified for his life. The panicking adventurer tells the team the entirety of Ourt village has fallen under a strange spell. Their eyes were all blood red, unresponsive, and soon collectively sprung up to attack him, describing almost word for word the condition they found Miles' father in. Realizing the entire village must be in trouble, Avin's team presses on, and soon find themselves at the entrance of the village. They realize if the entire village is hostile, simply wandering in may draw a ton of unnecessary conflict. Rutice decides to volunteer herself on an infiltration mission. Since meeting Jimmy in Valkid, Rutice had been learning the basics of invisibility magic. In their long journey together, she has become far more skilled in magic since then, and feels competent enough to give it a try. Avin, however, asks Rutice if it is possible for her to cast an invisibility spell over him, so that he can go instead. Rutice, of course, tells him this is a terrible idea. While she has successfully cast the spell over some small inanimate objects during her training, she can barely maintain the invisibility field over herself for a long time, let alone cast it on someone else. Avin, however, is determined to learn the truth about Mile with his own eyes and would not take no for an answer. Having come to realize the extent of his stubbornness, Rutice relents, but only if Avin agrees to bail out at the first sign of trouble. She casts the spell on Avin and renders him invisible. Asking the three to remain outside for now, Avin infiltrates Ourt village. Just as reported, the entirety of the village is under the same mind control spell that afflicted Miles' father, all of them wandering mindlessly inside the village. Avin finds his way to Elder Rowan's house, but peeks through the window and sees Miles' familiar figure, albeit only his back. As unbelievable as it may seem, that man is unmistakably Mile. He's alive. But something feels wrong. An aura of total malice permeated the air around Mile. Avin decides to look around a bit more and finds Elder Rowan, seemingly not under the mind control spell, locked up in what used to be Miles' home. Avin scrounges around and finds a pebble, tossing it into Miles' home to grab Rowan's attention. He manages to get the Elder to come to the window, and the two of them manage to reunite, though hardly a matter of joy under these circumstances. Avin tells Rowan a quick summary of everything that has happened since he first set out on his adventures, and ask Rowan what happened in the village. Is that man in his house really Mile? Rowan confirms that man is indeed Mile, but far from the boy that they once knew. The Mile now is a heartless, malicious man that radiates cruelty with every breath. Rowan recounts the events of a few days ago when Mile first came back alone. At first, the villagers were surprised to find Mile back home alone, and so they clamored around him, bombarding the boy with endless questions, but Mile would not respond. Then, to everyone's horror, he began chanting some diabolical spell. In the blink of an eye, that spell mind controls everyone in the village. Rowan, who was standing just outside his house, can only watch the scene unfold before him in horror. Mile takes the elder and locks him away, and in an evil tone dripping with venom, he tells Rowan that the age of destruction will soon come, wrought by Octum's own hands. He then headed to the bridge in the village overlooking the caverns into Nephthys' sanctum. Standing there, Rowan could hear him casting yet another spell, aiming it deep below into the shrine. No doubt, he had done something terrible to Nephthys. Hearing Rowan's recounting of the events that had happened, Avin decides to confront Mile. Leaving the elder inside for his own protection, Avin heads off to once again behold his now silver-haired friend. This time, however, his cover would be blown. Mile turns around and, despite Avin's invisibility field, easily deduces that he's standing outside. Coming out of the house, Mile identifies the invisibility spell as Rutice's handiwork. Crafty, but not good enough. Mile breaks Rutice's spell without even trying and reveals Avin right where he stands. As two old friends stare each other down, Mile starts to taunt Avin. It's been so long since they had last met, it would be rude to not spend some time catching up, right? Mile heads back inside, casually inviting Avin to join him for a chat. Muttering a curse under his breath, Avin has no choice but to oblige. He heads inside to confront the man that used to be his inseparable friend, demanding Mile explain what's going on. If he had been alive all this time, why didn't he try to contact them? What has he been doing since the attack outside of Theta? And what's the deal with the mind control and the other evil magics at his disposal? Faced with these questions, Mile's disposition is fairly indifferent, matter-of-factly telling Avin that he has seen the truth, claiming that Phildin, under the direction of the royal family and the Church of Bardus, is headed down the path of certain ruin. Faced with a coming global calamity, their only salvation is to have Octum rebuild the world into an utopia. Why not join Mile and oversee this change? It is the only way to salvation. Avin desperately tries to get Mile to snap out of this crazy talk, but it predictably falls on deaf ears. Mile then reframes his proposal. After all, Emil is currently with the cult, and Mile himself is now also with the cult. Hasn't Avin been fighting all this time to see Emil again? If he joins them, then he can be together with Emil again, and together with Mile again. The three of them can go back to the way they were. Still, Avin refuses to give in. The Mile he knows will never suggest any of this. Seeing that the talk has broken down by this point, Mile decides to stop playing nice and starts manipulating the villagers to seize Avin. Meanwhile, outside of the village, the three friends are getting increasingly worried. Rutice's invisibility spell would have worn off on its own a long time ago, yet Avin still hasn't come back out of Ourt village. Knowing that something must have gone wrong, Rutice decides to head in, but Marty and Muse will not let her go in alone. They tag along and charge into Ourt together. The three of them find Avin pinned down in the northern side, all the mind control villagers being unleashed on him, beating him black and blue mercilessly under Miles' command. They quickly realize that a direct engagement may be risky and formulate a rescue plan. Mile continues to taunt Avin, demanding that he forsake his mission and join the cult. Avin continues to resist, which prompts Mile to move in to execute him for his stubbornness. Just then, Muse moves in to strike, a predictable move that is easily dodged by Mile. However, that was just a distraction. Behind him, Rutice leaps in, smashing the remaining bottle of Jenis Elixir against Miles' body, coating him in the silvery solution. For a brief moment, this seems to break the spell. Miles stumbles backwards before regaining control, but with his concentration broken, the Ourt villagers all regain their senses. The team then realizes that the person in front of them is not Miles turned evil of his own volition, but instead someone using Miles' body as a puppet and simply speaking through him. The true voice behind Miles' actions comes through. Bellius is controlling Miles all the way from Cathedral. However, having lost control over the Ourt villagers, there's not much else to be gained from remaining here. Bellius doesn't see this as an issue, however. Nephthys has already been corrupted after all. Regaining control over Miles' body, Bellius teleports him away from the village. For now, the crisis at Ourt village is averted but not fully resolved. Marty frees Elder Rowan from captivity and brings him in to rejoin the villagers, and Avin, faced with the people that he grew up with, has a mountain of things to explain to all of them. After things settle down, Avin and crew meet with Elder Rowan and Miles' mother for a long talk. Knowing now that Miles is still alive, their mourning turns into rekindled hope. There may still be a chance to rescue Miles and turn him back to his senses. Avin vows to bring Miles back, no matter what. But before any of that, the current pressing matter is the issue of Nephthys. The team knows that she has been corrupted by Miles' foul incantation. Just like the previous two demigods, Avin must descend her sanctum to free her corrupted soul. However, the group has no clue who Nephthys' protector is, and thus have no way of entering the shrine. Elder Rowan tells the team that Nephthys' protector had died a long time ago without an heir. Since then, the role of her protector was passed to Sage Lemurus, who unfortunately has also since passed away. But knowing his duties, Lemurus would have most definitely hidden something in the Lookout Cottage that still holds the authority of the protector. Knowing that the key that can open the shrine must still be in the cottage somewhere, the team quickly heads off and leaves Ourt Village and enters the Lookout Cottage, the place that Avin had lived in for 8 years following the fall of Cathedral. The team splits up to search the entire cottage from top to bottom, looking for anything that might resemble an item which can open the shrine in Lemurus' stead. Avin wanders out back to where Lemurus' headstone was and finds Rutice there in silent prayer. She had always venerated the three great sages, even during her time as a cultist, and she found it fit to pay her respects to a great man. Avin decides to join her and spend some time at the gravestone to talk to his adoptive grandfather before resuming the search. Thinking back to the vision he saw on Vermillion, an idea suddenly comes to him. Heading out to the field, he rummages through the scarecrow and, to his surprise, discovers a small charm, as well as a letter. Avin cracks open the letter and reads it. It was written by Sage Lemurus during the final days of his life, addressed to Avin, but much later in the future for when he would eventually discover this letter. Lemurus tells Avin that the charm attached to the letter can be used to open the door to Nephthys' shrine, if it came to a time when he would need to seek out the deity of bountiful earth for her protection. Of course, Lemurus is not a prophet or a seer, but during the time Avin had lived with him, it became clear that his journey to rescue Emil may eventually lead him toward a tumultuous destiny. In the closing lines of the letter, Lemurus reminds Avin that humanity is far greater than mere tools of the gods. In the hearts of every mortal burns a bright flame of passion and ambition, a flame bright enough to overturn the tides of fate itself. The letter ends with a personal reassurance to Avin, Lemurus' pride and joy, reassuring him that he will undoubtedly prevail against his trials. Clutching on to the charm, an emotional Avin thanks his adoptive grandfather in the great beyond. Rallying the team together again, he opens the passage toward Nephthys' shrine, hidden somewhere behind the woods that Avin and Maya would play in as kids. They eventually find the dilapidated shrine in the forest depths and sets down Lemurus' charm atop the gate. Responding to its late protector, the sanctum springs to life and activates, granting the team passage toward Nephthys herself. Clawing their way through the undead that's come to inhabit the shrine in the centuries past, they find their way to the inner sanctum, and come face to face with the corrupted form of Nephthys, the deity of bountiful earth. The battle erupts just like the 2 times before. Twisting the essence of the earth, Nephthys' corrupted shell hardens, rendering her nearly impervious to attacks. Breaking through this corruption with endless torrents of magic, the team manages to barely prevail in the end, shattering the soul-binding spell and releasing Nephthys from her torment. Greeting Avin and crew and thanking them for their timely rescue, Nephthys remarks that this is not the first time they have met. She had been aware of Avin ever since that wishing card first fell into her sanctum 8 years ago now. Since then, she has seen Avin grow into a fine young man, and now one who has more than proved his right to take custody of Bardus' soul. From within Nephthys, the 5th fragment of Bardus, the life-giving left arm of Bardus, Isabura, manifests and is passed on to Avin, along with the protection of the earth spirits. With 5 fragments secured, the final one is in the hands of Zar, the deity of blazing flames. As the Sanctum of Nephthys powers down along with the now slumbering deity of Earth, the team returns to Ourt village, and finds it guarded by the royal army following the crisis. Feeling a modicum of safety now that the village is under the protection of the royal army, Avin's team reports in to Elder Rowan, and to their relief, finds Miles' father safe and returned to the village. Faced with Miles' parents, Avin renews his vow to find and rescue both Miles and Emil, so that the next time they come back, they will all be together again. Remarking that Avin had come a long way since he first left the village, and has now matured into an outstanding young man, Miles' parents remind him that he is just as important to Ourt village as Miles, and to not push himself beyond his limits. Avin's next destination would be to report back to Archbishop Krar in Valkid. Miles' parents wish Avin well in his travels ahead, and not just him, but Rutice as well, should all come back once their journey is said and done. The road to Valkid is no joke. Avin and Rutice would have to essentially walk across all of Boreas before seeking naval transport in Beloa just to return to Deuces. With an unenviable journey ahead of them, Avin's team heads off. When they arrive in Phildin, however, they're stopped by a guard who identifies Avin and tells him to meet with Sage Dinerkin, who is waiting for him in the Phildin Royal Library. Puzzled, Avin heads for the library and finds Professor Logos in the inner study, who tells him that Dinerkin is waiting for him just beyond that door before them. Opening the door, they find a long stretch of chiseled stairs leading them ever downward, and at the end of it was a mystical chamber with not just Dinerkin but also Gawain waiting for them. Muse and Marty are surprised to find Gawain here. They were led to believe that the Sage of Strength had already gone back to Valkid. Humored, Gawain tells them that indeed he was in Valkid. In fact, he was in Valkid just that morning. But thanks to the chamber that they stand in now, traveling between Valkid and Phildin is but a trivial task. The ever-perceptive Rutice knows that the room has the same aura as the Shrine of Revelation in Vera Isla, an observation which Gawain knows to be correct. The place they're standing in now is called a transport gate, another relic left behind by the Benthonic people. There is an identical gate just like this beneath Valkid, and once connected, people can take these gates to move between these two places instantaneously. As always, this long-lost ancient civilization possesses technology that modern humans cannot fathom. Thanks to the diligent work of Sage Dinerkin, however, this pair of transport gates between Phildin and Valkid are now fully operational. With the rising threat of the cult, a gate like this that connects the royal capital and the Church of Bardus is a magnificent boon in their ongoing cooperation against the darkness. Gawain offers to take Avin and Rutice through the gate, directly warping them to Valkid and report to the Archbishop. Avin and Rutice steps onto the gate as it powers on, saying goodbye to their dear friends and promising to help each other in the battles ahead. The transport gate hums to life and whisks them away, and in the blink of an eye, they emerge in another copy of this exact room, but in Valkid, on the other side of the continent. Marveling at this technology and the knowledge possessed by this ancient civilization, Rutice wonders what possible disaster could have brought the Benthonic people to ruin, a question that perhaps no living man in Phildin knows the answer to. Gawain hypothesizes that maybe a calamity beyond their control had brought them to ruin, but sadly, the truth may forever elude them. The trio head outside and in no time at all run into a bright and chipper Shannon. It turns out Shannon had been spending her time working odd errands here and there for the priests and sisters in Valkid, and has since become a rather cheery and welcome sight for the people here. However, Avin, armed with news about Shannon's promised prince, just has to deliver the news to her. Asking Shannon to steady herself, Avin tells her that she was right all along. Mile is still alive. Avin saw him with his own eyes. He then tells a small lie and says Mile is being held captive by the bad guys, but he will definitely rescue Mile and bring him back safe and sound. Hearing this shocking news, Shannon immediately seizes up and passes out. The team calls Father Kerio to take Shannon to bed and report to Archbishop Krar with the news of all they've accomplished in Boreas. Overjoyed to hear their success, Archbishop Krar tells the team that the final fragment lies with Tsar, the deity of blazing flames, whose sanctum lies in the shadowed village of Canafia, a name that has come up once or twice in the past. The only way to reach Canafia is to go to the town of Brijak in southern Ducis and seek passage by ship. At last, the time has come to complete the prophecy. However, before they leave, Gawain tells Avin that the gift he had been waiting for had finally arrived. Krar walks up and presents Avin with this gift. Fresh from the Guia factory, thanks to the combined efforts of Real, Elanoa, Ruka, and the many workers on this project, the longsword forged with mirage metal, a sword stronger than steel yet lighter than a feather, the most powerful weapon ever forged by humanity's own hands, has finally been created. Despite its magnificent caliber, the blade fits Avin like a glove. All that's left for him is to secure the final fragment of Bardus and infuse this blade with the reawakened powers of the God of Light, so that the barrier to Cathedral may finally be shattered. Before they can head off, however, a massive earthquake suddenly strikes Valkid. The team is shocked that an earthquake has struck, but Krar seems unsurprised. He tells the team that recently, earthquakes would strike all of Ducis once every 3 days or so, and recently it seems to be getting increasingly frequent, and the tremors increasingly violent, no doubt a byproduct of Octum gradually reawakening from his slumber. The earthquakes carry ill omens of the Dark God's reemergence with every tremor. With time actively working against them, the team make for the town of Brijak with due haste to assemble all 6 fragments before it is too late.